Hope everyone's having a good night. What I want to do in this video is kind of a follow-up to the video I made a while back about the SketchUp to Blender add-on. I hadn't actually gotten around to making a SketchUp to Blender workflow. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to show you how I typically make like my walls, windows, that kind of thing to bring into Blender. When I am doing this, typically I will actually use models not from like the 3D warehouse. You could do this, but I find it doesn't work as well with Blender. I do really recommend that you kind of get like some Arch-Viz models from like Polygon or Imeshh to kind of liven up the room. And what Imeshh actually did is they let us use some of their library to make these videos. So some of you may have seen a couple of the other videos I made about doing this room. All those models are available, so I'll leave a link for that below. Now, just for the sake of speeding things up, I'm not going to go through and upload every single model into my own file because I already have a room that's done. So I'm just going to take all the models in at once. But I will just quickly show you how you'll be able to get every single one of those models in yourself if you download it. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to start off by measuring out a room that's about, we'll do 12 feet across, and maybe we'll say like 20 feet long, just so that we have a lot of room to kind of work with. And then I'm just going to do that. I'm going to offset the walls by 5 inches. I'm going to flip both of these faces up. And then I'm going to pull this up. We're going to go 8 feet. And then I'll probably just leave that plain like that. So one of the first things I like to do is to put in the hardwood flooring. Now I actually made something a while back that's like a hardwood floor kind of starter kit that will save you time. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to download this. And the way I have this set up so that it's like the quickest possible way, I think, at least, to get really realistic hardwood floors inside of SketchUp to bring into like Lumion or Blender. And what I'm going to do now is I'm just going to grab this plank here. I'm going to hit K so I can grab this corner. And then I'm just going to drag this so that it's... I just find this little nub here. Like if I zoom in, as you can see, there's like a little part that's extended out. That's so you can just clip that right to it. And then you should be able to just zoom out. And we're going to hit times 5. That's good enough. And then we're just going to do that with the other ones. And then we can just copy that over. And then we're going to throw some random textures on there. When it comes to Lumion and Blender, I find that actually modeling things like hardwood floor comes out much better than really any texture. So there that is 5. And it doesn't matter if it's extending out because you won't be able to see it. And so we'll grab this one too, zoom in, find that little nub right there. And then times 5. Perfect. So what we can do now is I can just grab all of these. I can go K again. So I have this, grab this corner, and I'm going to come and I'm going to find the little indent right here. Just takes a second to kind of clip it on. Hopefully I can get this one. The problem is it can't really stop it and go like in. Maybe I actually didn't put one on this one. Oh no, okay, I did. So you just gotta have to try and find it. But if I zoom up, I hit 5, 10, I'll just do 11. Yeah, I can kind of clean up some of these ones that are hanging out, but it's not really that big of a deal. And then I'll just grab these ones. I'll just scale these down because it won't really, like, we're going to be unwrapping everything inside of Blender anyways to give it the best effect. And then we're going to drag this in like that. And drag, I guess I could just do this. Oops. Using too much Blender. Okay. And I will just talk a bit about like kind of the controls and stuff inside of Blender. I am assuming that you've kind of like used the software a little bit, but I will go into some detail. So yeah, that is basically all we have to do for this. That's looking pretty good. Now, what you have to do is, unlike going to LUMION, you can actually just, if I can select one of these. Yeah, you come in here. We're just going to make this all the same texture, and I will show you why later on. This one, actually, that looks really ugly. We'll just do that for now so we can clearly see. The next thing I'm going to do is I'm just going to get some simple molding in there. So what I like to do is grab this, move it up a little bit. I'm going to make this a group. And then I'm going to come down here so that there's a, like that group is just sitting on top of, actually, I shouldn't have put that in because I need to do one thing first. So I'm going to basically start here. I'm going to go up 4 inches. I'm going to go out 0.5 inches. Go like that. And then I will just select these edges quickly. And then I'm going to hit follow me. And I guess I just need to flip these faces inside out. It's not that big of a deal if the faces are inside out for Blender. I just like to try and keep it as clean as possible. So that's good. Pull that down. So that's sitting right on top of that. So now we have our baseboards or molding, whatever you call that. Now I am going to use Valley Architects for this, but you could very easily just get something off the 3D Warehouse. There is something about using the 3D Warehouse and Valley Architects. It is very important to using the SketchUp add-on, because if you don't fix this, it will not import to Blender. But it is very simple to fix, and I'll show you what it is. If we pick, these seem like pretty big windows. Let me just get a measurement here. So about 11 feet across, and we have about 7.5. So I'm going to do 6 feet tall. Do I have the right one selected here? Just trying to think of what would be, I guess these are simple enough. So I'll do 6 feet high, 10 feet across. Oops, 10 across. For the slider doors, fine. Extension, I'm going to do, for the frame, I'm going to do the flat trim. For the depth here, I want 5 inches because that's what I made the, wall. This one I was do flat trim as well. Then I'll just hit OK. That should be good like that. Now this window is much bigger than you'd probably see in real life, but the reason why I want to do it like this is just because just so we get a lot of light coming into our scene, and it's simple. So yeah, what I'm going to do is I'm going to click on both of these. I'm going to make them a group. Now this will kind of make it so it's not cutting through anymore. So I just draw a square over it, or a rectangle rather. Then I'm going to cut that out. So click that, click that. All right, so it's coming together. Our room is almost finished, at least what I want to do with it in SketchUp, because as I said, I'm going to be bringing in all of the models. You can do, like, you really can use the 3D Warehouse. I don't recommend it, as I said, with Blender. It just doesn't work as well as bringing in kind of like your own models. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to throw some plaster on this wall. And we're not going to be using these textures in Blender, obviously, but it will give different material IDs so we can kind of just change everything at once. Wallpaper, sure, we'll just throw these on. I'll click on the molding. We'll just go to color. I guess I'll just make this. I'll call this molding so that we know. And then I'm also going to make the window the same as that. So since we're using Valley Architects and the glass is already kind of set, we can click on that, and then everything will change like that. Because since the glass is already set, by clicking on the group, it's only going to change the ones with the default material. So that's good. Now, the thing that I was talking about that you need to fix is that if we go inside of this group, as you can see, there's a lot of like kind of nested layers. We don't want that. So what we want to do is we want to go one in, grab everything, and just explode. And we're just going to keep doing that like this. Yeah. And as I said, the problem that you might run into, if it says like there's like, actually, you know what? I'm going to show you in Blender what it looks like, because I feel like just so everyone knows exactly what I'm talking about. I will just save this on my desktop for now. I'll just call this SketchUp room, or SketchUp Blender room. So I'll save that. Now, if I go into Blender here, and I will quickly talk about downloading the add-on, but you go to import SketchUp scene, desktop, and I'm just going to quickly find my SketchUp Blender room. And so this one worked. Let me just double check something. Shit, I feel like whenever I need it to, whenever I need it to work, it doesn't do it. But basically, a lot of the time, if you get this error in the add-on saying like Python like issue, and you just get this red bar at the bottom of your screen, every single time I've had that issue, it's because there's too many groups nested into each other, and it just has trouble reading what's actually going on. So yeah, that's kind of where we're at with this. But there's a few more things that I'm going to do before we bring this in. So as I said, what I'm going to do is I'm going to come in here. I'm just going to explode everything. It's no big deal. Okay. And then I'm going to group this. I think it's trying to click on the wood here. Okay. So I think this is okay, but I am just going to explode this just in case. And then I'm going to group this up, and then hopefully we don't run into that problem. The reason why I'm doing this is I'm now going to make the roof on it. So I'm just going to pull this up slightly, something like that. Going to highlight all this, make that a group. And then I'm going to just make a quick texture called roof. That's good. Okay, so I would say that's pretty much ready to go. So we'll save this. Now I'll come into Blender. I'm going to make a group up here. So I will talk a little bit about Blender, but for now, all you have to do is go up to the scene collection, hit new collection, double tap it, and put SketchUp model. So if you're at this point and you don't have the SketchUp importer for Blender, there is a link below to a video where I kind of walk through it, just where to get it, that kind of thing. I think I actually had a direct link to it. So if I did have that, I will just put one below the video. It's very simple though. Once you have Blender installed, you go to Edit, Preferences, Add-ons, and then you go up to Install, and then you just find where you saved it. So I think like Blender Add-on, wherever it is. Yeah, so SketchUp Importer. I think I still have the same version, which is like 0.21.1. And so then you just click on that, and then you should see it pop up here. So it should look like this, basically, not the Sketch Fab. So if I say SketchUp, like as soon as you type it in, you should see it like this, except it's not checked on. Just click that, and then you should be good to go. A couple small things I also want to mention before you kind of get going with this is go to Edit. If you're coming from SketchUp, obviously, then you kind of want to do this. Go back up to Edit, Preferences. We're going to go to Navigation, and then turn on Zoom to mouse position. That lets you kind of do this. Like if you see, like if I hold my mouse to the right side of the screen, it'll zoom in on it. And if I hold it to the left, it zooms in there. If you don't have this clicked on, you'll always zoom to this cursor thing. And while you can move it around by holding Shift and then right clicking, it's just very annoying. So if you are a SketchUp user, that's kind of what you want to do. The other thing I'm going to do quickly here is I'm going to turn on my Screencast keys, just because that way you can see what I'm actually doing. Green. Cool. So I think I have to just need to figure out how I did this last time. I think if I go like that, just need to find where it actually is. Um, area. I always found this kind of weird. Like I feel like it's kind of hard to get this to work. So event history maybe. It said origin. Oh, okay, that's why I didn't have it actually turned on, so I was messing with these controls. Okay, so yeah, you'll see the big text right here. That basically is saying like what I'm doing, and then that way it's just easier for you to kind of understand um, everything as I'm going through it. Now, the other thing that we're just going to do before we import our model is this is going to be a tutorial on cycles, not Eevee. So cycles is ray tracing. So what you want to do is actually before you go over here, you want to go up to Edit, Preferences. You're going to go to System, and now if you have a GPU that can use Optix, you should see it when you go to System. You want to use that one. I think OpenCL is for people with AMD cards, and then Cuda is okay, but it's not as good. So yeah, if you have none, I think you can still render. That part I'm a little bit unsure about, but I think the majority of you will have CUDA and Optix. But Optix is the one that's superior. So if you can, that's the one I recommend you use. Now that that's done, go over here, go to your render engine and make sure that it is set to cycles. And yeah, so I think that that's it. So you also for denoising, I'm assuming you all have Blender 2.91 at least. You should see this over here. You want to go render Optix if you have it, and then viewport also Optix. Unfortunately, I can't use the viewport render right now because I tried to download Omniverse and it did some weird things to my cache, I think. And Blender crashes whenever I go into rendered mode. So we're not gonna be using that obviously. But if you do have the viewport denoiser, it's an amazing tool. And I'm honestly thinking of just like fresh installing my computer just so I can get it back because everything I've tried hasn't worked. But yeah, we're now ready to import the SketchUp model. So I had this SketchUp room. Okay, so this is how it comes in. And by the way, if you hold Z, you can go into material preview mode. So looking at all this, this is fine. But we need, obviously, for everything to kind of look a little more lived in. Yeah, so the first thing we're going to do is we are going to make a glass shader. Now, this may seem complicated. Don't worry about it. It's not as bad as it may seem. So what you want to do is you want to click on the glass, and then you want to go over to this material properties here, and then click on VA glazing or whatever window, like whatever glass you have inside of SketchUp, and then you want to go up to this and hit shading. Now, as I said, this may seem more complicated than it actually is. Just kind of follow the steps. You don't really need to understand what I'm doing because quite frankly, I don't really understand what I'm doing with this. It's just how you make architectural glass so that like light can pass through, but it won't create as much noise in your scene, which means you can get better renders faster. So what you want to do is you want to click in this window, hit Shift A, hit search. We're going to hit light path, click it over here. We're going to hit Shift A, search again. We're going to hit math. We're going to hit Shift A again, mix shader. Shift A again, glass. Then we're going to hit Shift A, transparent. And this is how you link them up. So you want to make sure that this math is add. The value goes into the factor. Glass goes into the shader, and transparent goes in the shader. Something I'd check too is that normally the roughness comes in at 0, but I've had sometimes it comes in at 0.5. You want it to be 0. Then we're just going to grab shadow ray, put it in here, diffuse ray, put it in here. And that's all you need to do. Now, as I said, like, or actually, no, that's a lie. Sorry. The shader has to go into surface. And then you should see, if you're in material preview mode, you should see something like this. And okay, so that's coming together. What I'm going to actually start doing now, though, is bringing in some of my, some of the materials from the pack that, or from the Imeshh models. So what I'm going to do is, as I said, I'm just going to bring in all the models by appending them in. You can't, like, this is how you're supposed to do it with the other ones. But if you are unsure about this, I really recommend you check out the last video I made about doing your first Arch-Viz room in Blender. I can leave timestamps of where to look in that video because I go a little more in depth about appending into Blender. So if I go here and go to append, I just need to find where I saved my old, the old video here. I think it was 67. So Imeshh room. Here it is. Go to collection. And it was, I think it was collection here. No, so that's not the one I want. I'm going to append. I thought I made one saying that it was like assets maybe. If this one doesn't work, I'm just going to quickly pop it open and make sure I don't have the wrong one. Okay, so this was it. So all of my models are in here. I am just going to link them up with the correct textures. When something comes in pink like this, it just means that the texture is missing. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to select these objects. And actually, I was going to make them. Yeah, actually, I will just make them a little bit smaller. These are the correct size, but I made the room a little bit small. So I could just increase that, but I think it might be easier if I just decrease this down a little bit. Just because it doesn't have to be perfect. So I'm going to delete these old windows. And then I think I need to actually I made it a little bit too small. Okay, so that's good enough. I'll just move that over. I'll drag the couch over. Then I'll drag the picture over. Okay, so we're making fairly good time. As I said, I'm trying to get through this a lot faster than the other ones that I did just because they took forever. Now, what I'm going to do is I'm going to click on the floor here, or I'm going to shift right-click the floor so that the cursor moves. And then if you don't have a camera already, you can hit Shift-A. As I said, if you hit 0 and it zooms to a camera, you're good to go, and I'll show you the next step, but you can just wait while I do this one. So we're just going to click Camera. As you can see, if I hit 0 on my number pad, it'll kind of zoom into the camera. But if I go back into layout mode here, I'm going to hit 0 again just because I want to have a bigger screen for this. We're going to hit N, and we're going to go up to View, and we're going to make sure that Camera to View is locked. And then holding Shift in the middle mouse button, you can kind of pan around. So we're just going to find an angle that we like. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to kind of find one that I think is good. If you want to change the focal length, just click until you kind of see like a border around here. The other way to check is if your camera is selected is you can either select it up here. You just go to camera, or you can hit 0 and pop back out and make sure that it's actually orange and clicked on. So we'll hit 0 to pop back in. And then I'm actually just going to decrease the focal length a bit till about here. Yeah, this, there could be some stuff that is done a little bit better, but this is kind of good for now. What I'm going to also do is I'm going to go to HDRI Haven. I'm going to get we're going to download it. So I kind of like this one right here. That works. We're just going to do a 1K texture because I am going to give you a background image to use. So Lilienstein, or I'm not sure how to pronounce that, but that is what you want. What we're going to do is we're going to go to World Properties, Color, click that yellow dot there. You're going to go to Environment Texture, Open, Downloads. We're going to go to the most recent thing. There's our image. And okay, so the HDRI is in. I'm going to show it to you in a second. As I said, I can't go into rendered mode, unfortunately, which is most of you, if you hold Z and go up, if you follow the steps correctly, you should now have the HDRI in there. But what I'm just going to quickly do is I'm going to fix all these pink textures. So I'm going to go to File, External Data, Find Missing Files, Desktop, or not desktop, sorry. I need to find where I put this. So this would just depend on where you saved it. So if I go click iMesh room, find missing files, and then everything should link here. If it doesn't, I'll have to link it to a different part in my computer. But I think that this should work. Okay, so that's looking really good. What we're going to do is we're going to render off a quick test. But before we do that, I'm just going to quickly go over to the render properties here. I'm going to go to render. I'm just going to turn this to 50 so that it goes faster. More samples, the more time you're going to take. So yeah, we have the resolution there. That's looking good. Now I'm going to hit F12 once the camera's set up. So we're going to get this render. We hit F12 just to quickly see. You could just hold Z and go into rendered mode, and you're going to kind of get a good example of what it's going to look like. The room is probably going to be really dark because I'm assuming that the HDRI is not kind of pointing in the window at the moment. We are going to put some disc lights outside of the window though, and that's going to be the majority of the light coming in just because it looks really nice. Then we're also going to put some on the ceiling. This is just going to take a moment to load everything in. Okay, so right off the bat, this is kind of where it's at. And as I said, everything's really dark, but the HDRI does give like a nice ambient light. So yeah, that's kind of where we're at right now, which is good. That's what I wanted. Now we can go about kind of changing some of these SketchUp textures. This will just take a second. Okay, so I am going to be appending in the textures. Or actually, if I can find them, maybe I'll just show you how it's actually done, because I figure that a lot of you are fairly new to Blender, so I should probably just walk through that at least once. So we're going to go, I'm just going through my files on the other screen here. Right, so in that starter pack that you should have downloaded, you should see the TW0078 Wood 78. So all of these textures are what we're going to be putting on the floor. For this one, we will use 4K. But if you are having some computer problems, like maybe it's going too slow, you can use 1 or 2. But yeah, now that I found that, what I'm going to do is I'm just going to open up my shading tab. This one is just on my other screen, just because if I click on this, it'll disappear. So I'm going to just drag this over here. I'm going to go, I might as well just show you this. So I'm going to go into the 4K. And I guess I can just leave it up here like this. I'm going to click on the hardwood floor texture. So if you click on the hardwood floor and then go over to the material properties here, you should see like the name of your SketchUp file. I'm going to call this hardwood floor. Right, so that is basically good to go. And as you can see, if you're in the shading editor, then this is more or less what you should see. I'm going to delete this though. And I'm going to take these textures. As I said, they're in the 4K. I'm going to drop this in. I'm going to drop in the normal map. And I'm going to drop in the roughness map. If you have Node Wrangler, I'm not going to get into that in this tutorial, then there are kind of faster ways of doing that. But just for this tutorial, I'm going to show you how to set up the texture correctly. I'm going to go like this. We're going to hit Shift-A, mapping, Shift-A, texture coordinate. Oh. Texture coordinate. Something is, it seems like it's kind of, like my Blender's kind of slow right now. I'm not sure if I have like something on, but it seems like it keeps kind of stalling. Let me close this. Maybe SketchUp is messing it up, but once you have this set up, you're going to go to UV. And you're going to put that into the vector. And then the vector goes into all of these vectors. If you've used Unreal Engine before, it's kind of similar to that. And then all of these will say everything except the base color. sRGB, we're going to change that to non-color, non-color. And then I like to plug the normal map directly into the normal map node. And then I Shift-A, type in normal map, not normal map. That is very important. We're going to type that one in. Roughness goes into roughness, and then base color goes into base color. Right, so as you can see, the texture is now in, but it's not quite what we want. And I'm going to show you a trick that is really, really good for using like on hardwood floors, and this works with pretty much any workflow in Lumion. So make sure the hardwood floor is selected. We're going to go into edit mode by hitting by hitting tab and then 3 to go into face mode. Now, as you can see, you kind of get these like all the boards are cut in half because SketchUp uses triangles. So I'm just going to hit Shift A, I'm going to hit F3, and I'm going to type tries to quads. And now, as you can see, everything is fixed. So this only works for like fairly simple scenes, but it works really well in this case. What I'm also going to do is I'm going to hit tab 0 just to get off the camera. Now, we could leave this like that, and I think that would be fine. But what we're going to do is we're going to go back into edit mode by hitting tab. We're going to go up to select similar, normal. And then we're going to hit U and go to Smart UV Project. And then what that does is that almost kind of puts them, like it unwraps the boards, but it almost does it so that they're in like random directions. So like almost like instead of like front to back, some are back to front. And then it also just makes it so it kind of goes all over the place. Like you don't have to do this part, but I will just show you with a better explanation. So if you go into the UV editing, as you can see, these are all of our boards and they're all kind of sitting on that, on the texture. And so this is the effect that it comes out to. So you get randomness in the hardwood floors. What I'm going to do for the molding and the windows is if we just go up to this, this one is much more simple. Just go in, click on it, go into the material properties, go to molding, and then whatever color it is, just drag it so the H and the S are at 0, maybe, yeah. And then you can make it like a little bit off-white if you want. This one is kind of simple because we're not really doing anything crazy with it. And then I just like to turn the roughness up a little bit. If you don't see these, make sure that you have use nodes. Like you should see a button that just says use nodes. And then, yeah, so that's good. Now, the last thing I want to do before we start to just kind of like almost like play around with the lighting a bit is I just need to change this wall plaster. So let me see if this is in the... I think there's just going to be a link to download it. Or actually, what did I do with this? Okay, so really, you can. I'll put this normal map on the Google Drive. So there's a link for this. This is all we're going to do. We're just going to we're going to select this. We are going to go to the wallpaper dog bone. We're just going to get rid of this. So where it says base color here, we're just going to go remove. And then I'm going to make sure this is all the way down. So maybe we want to do something that's like in this. So maybe just like a little tiny bit blue, and that should be good. We're going to go back into the shading editor because we want to just add that normal map in here. So I'm going to just get a little bit closer to the wall here so I can see it. Take the normal map. And this is all you have to do for that. Like we're only have to use this one map, plug it in the normal, make it non-color, normal map. And then that's a little bit strong, but it seems like it's tiling well enough. So I'll just make this 0.5 strength. And I think that's fine. So the last thing that we have to do is just add a little bit of lighting in the scene and then just add the background in. So if you want to kind of hover outside of the scene and it won't take you a bit of time just to get used to using the controls to get around. Shift, shift in the middle mouse button or pan, and just holding the middle mouse button is the just like the orbit. So now I'm gonna hold shift and right click on this window so that the cursor is kind of like sitting on the face of it on the outside. I'm gonna hit Shift A. I'm gonna go to light, area. I'm gonna hit R, X. So it's going to rotate along the x-axis. Okay, so 90 is not what we want because as you can see, that line is going out towards, away from the window. So I'm going to hit exit. I'm going to hit RX 270. I'm going to hit GY, bring it out here. I'm going to go over to the bar here and you should see a light bulb. We're going to go to the shape, make it disk, and I'm going to make it 250. I am going to drag this back a little bit more. So hit GY, and then we're going to hit S. Just scale it up a little bit. Now, there is something that we have to do, because I'll show you quickly what happens if you don't do the trick I'm about to show you. If I hit 0 and I render this out quickly, this will take just another second just to kind of get going. But what's basically going to happen is we're going to see this massive white sphere in the window, because lights in LUMION, or in Blender, sorry, if you have like that light, like the light shape in a reflection, then Blender is going to just actually show that light, because I guess it has trouble like determining kind of what it is. So we're just going to make it so that it does not reflect. And yeah, as you can see, this is what it looks like. And that is not what we want. So, okay. How do we fix it? We will just give this a second, because it is just kind of finishing rendering. So we'll need a moment. Just hit exit. Yeah, this, like I said, my Blender's been kind of picky since I did that Omniverse thing. So yeah, I'm not really sure why that is. What I'm gonna do is I'm gonna click on this. If you click on the window once, it'll pick the window, but if you tap it twice, it'll pick on like the thing behind the window. So I could just hop out and do this, but you know, I'm just in here, so whatever. What you want to do while you have this light selected is go right here to Object Properties. And then you're going to go to Visibility, and you're going to turn off Glossy and Transmission. I can't remember which one is which, but that's good enough. Also, what you're going to do is hit RX, and we're just going to tilt the light down a little bit, so it's coming in there. I'm going to move this a little bit closer to the window. Right, and now we're just going to quickly throw a couple of lights inside. Area, disk, and I'll make these like 20. So what I'm also going to do with this is I'm going to do the same thing with the visibility. So glossiness and transmission are off. And then while I have this selected, I'm going to hold Alt-D and then X or Y, depending on like how you set up your scene. And then that's going to make it so these are linked. So an example is if I go back into the mode and I'm changing the size, as you can see, the lights are both moving at once. So if I change the power of one, they're all going to change. So I'm going to do that again, except I'm going to hit Alt-D-Y, bring that back here, Alt-D-Y, bring that back here. That's good enough. I am just going to load in my my background image. So let me just make sure I have this. This is the background image. This is just a little drone shot we took in Halifax. So we are going to have to enable an add-on for this. We're going to go to Edit, Preferences, Add-ons, Image as Plane. So make sure this is ticked on. Import, Export, Import Image as Planes. We're going to go to Import, Image as Planes. I'm just going to find where I saved this. Arch-Viz Starter Pack, A3 LR2. Now, before you click on this, if you did, delete the plane and go back, because there is one thing you're going to have to do. You want to go over here to Material Settings and go Shadeless. Now we're going to click this, and this is just going to make it so that we can have a little more control over how this looks. So I'm going to hit GY. I'm going to just scale this up. Now we don't need this whole image, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to hit Tab, Control R to make a loop cut. These are really important in Blender. So what we're just going to do though, Control R, you should hover over the top. If you don't see it, just make sure you are on one of the sides. It should pop up. Click once, then drag it, and then click again, and it locks it in. Control R, do that. Now we're going to hit 1 to go into vertice mode. We're just going to tap these. Yeah, this will just make it so we can delete these corners, and that's all we're left with. So we'll hit Tab again to pop out. I'll hit GX, hold S and go up. And I think that that's fairly good. I am going to bring this down a little bit more. Now I'm going to show you why we had to do the shadeless thing. This is a little trick that we do that it's very simple, but it has great results. So you should see this right here if you click on this image because it's the only material. So we'll hit Shift A, mix shader, and then you want to drop that right here. Now what we're going to do is we're going to take the color of this. Oh, wait, sorry. There's one more thing I have to do. So hit Shift A, type in emission, drop that here. So you don't want this linked up to anything else. This goes in the color of the emission. That goes in here. And then what this lets you do is this lets you make the plane emissive. So you can make it just kind of look a little more like lit up. Normally something like 2.5 is good. Maybe 3. That should be good to go. Now let's take a look at what our render looks like, because I think now we're just doing like final touches. And as I said, you could be doing like render mode for this. Unfortunately, yeah. If you are looking to get into Blender, I will leave a link below to what I think is the best Blender modeling tutorial to get into. It's just making a treasure chest, and that gives you a pretty good idea of how to use the controls in Blender. I know that I didn't go into them as much as I probably should for this, just because I kind of figured that like I wanted to focus mostly on going from SketchUp to Blender and not so much like how to use Blender. That's why I kind of just gave knowledge when I could. So looking at this is looking good, except the the background has to come down. The lights are way too strong inside. And I think the outside light is a little bit too strong too. So maybe I'll just move that back a bit. We will just give this one more moment. But yeah, we should be finishing this up. So this, I'm going to turn to 10. I'm going to hit 0 on this to get out of the camera mode. I'm going to move this back, and I'm also going to make this only 150. And then I'm actually going to save this because I just realized I haven't saved yet. So that's something you should not do. You should always keep a saved file because there are ways to auto just to get like the file back, but it's just always smartest to do that because you might lose a bit of progress. Videos. I guess I might as well make another one for this. So 82 SketchUp to Blender, and I'll just call this room. That's good enough. Okay, so let's see how this goes. Hopefully this is good enough to be a final render. Yeah, like unfortunately, there is a bit of waiting time. Hope next time I make a tutorial, I'll have this issue fixed so I can just go into rendered mode and show you how it all works. So this is looking a bit better. Yeah, I'm not loving the wall texture. The wall color, I think that needs to change. And then yeah, I'll change that background image, and then that should be the last thing we do, and it should be all good to go. So I'm gonna make this more of like a taupe or something like that, or just like something that's just not as like blue. So this needs to come down like that. This just needs to go. So I'm gonna bring this something like I think that's yeah, that's not too bad. Like it is, maybe it's a little yellow, but gray. You can just kind of play around with it until you find something that you like. But yeah, maybe I'll just make it a little bit gray just because that'll go with just about anything. Okay, but I think that that's good. So I am going to put this on. I guess I'll just do a 50. When I make the thumbnail, I'm probably going to do like 1,000 samples or something that's a bit higher just so that it looks better. And yeah, unfortunately, this is kind of a time loss here, but yeah, this will basically be the end of the tutorial. If you have any questions at all, please let me know. If you're getting stuck on a certain part, I can just try and help you like kind of troubleshoot it and figure out exactly what's going on with that. As you can see though, the iMesh models are fantastic. If you don't know about iMesh, I really recommend that you go and check them out. They have some of the best models for Blender. It also works really well with Lumion, just because all of their textures have different material IDs, so you can edit them as you need inside of Lumion. If you are thinking of getting a subscription with them, it's $99 a year, which in my opinion is a fantastic deal. But you can also help support the channel by using the code below. I believe it's Greg10, and that will just be the affiliate link. But yeah, so yeah, let me know what you guys think of this. I try to get through this fairly fast because I know that there's not a lot of SketchUp to Blender tutorials out there. Maybe I will make one just showing how to go and bring in 3D warehouse models into SketchUp and kind of clean them up. I've spent a ton of time going from SketchUp to Blender now, so I know a lot of like, I guess like little tricks to help kind of get through all this. Yeah, so hopefully you guys found this helpful. If you did, I'd really appreciate it if you could hit that like button. If you aren't already subscribed to the channel, also really appreciate it if you hit that red button. Help me out with the YouTube algorithm. If you are subscribed, thank you very much. I hope that this workflow interests you, and I will be making more videos about it in the future. Have a great night, everybody.